It's a new season in FPL because for the first time ever, we get a second set of chips, a chance at redemption to use our wildcard, triple captain, bench boost, and free hit chip effectively. In this video, I'll give you my view on how to use these chips. I'll rank them from 1 to 4. I'll also give you 3 players to look for that you can transfer in one move from this player who's coming out of many people's squads because he's most likely leaving in January. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Femi. Let's jump into it. So in past seasons of FPL, I wanted to hold on to my chips for as long as possible because in the second half of the season, what you'll see is there'll be double game weeks where times where players play twice, and then blank game weeks where times where players and teams don't play at all, given the amount of competitions that are for so many of the teams in the schedule. So essentially what I like to do, and I'm going to give you one of my big tips here if you want to win your mini league, is I'd save my triple captain chip for the last game week of the season. The reason being is usually that game week, there's so many crazy scores, and you would take advantage of, if your mini league is close, by having the ability to triple captain a player that you think is going to explode. And that happens all the time. I remember one time Cedric on Arsenal, he scored like 17 points. So if you triple captain him, you would have made off and probably won your mini league that year. So that's like the example of using your triple captain at the last game week of the season. But in this video, what I wanted to do to help you guys, because we're all struggling with so many injuries in the game right now, is to look at what are the best chips, rank them 1 to 4, and give you how I use them and how I would play them. Not necessarily what fixtures, because it's way too early to determine what fixtures to play them in, but really the ideology or thought process around the chips and how to use them effectively. So let's just dive into it. And with no surprise, the first chip to play and the best chip to play is the wildcard chip. So the number one chip in the game, in my opinion, is the wildcard chip. It's the best and most powerful chip in the game. It allows you to change your entire team, making unlimited transfers to get the players that you want that will do the best and perform the greatest for your squad. So I know there's a huge desire to use the wildcard chip now. There's lots of injuries, but let me give you some reasons to consider potentially not to. So in this second half of the season, like I mentioned, that you're going to have double game weeks where teams play twice. You're also going to have blanks, weeks where teams don't play at all, given the amount of games that teams play and the amount of competitions they're involved in. So for me, when I look at my squad, unless there's like a number of injuries. So for example, in game week 2, I played the wild card when I had Saka and Odegaard out in the same game. I also had Salah in my squad, who I needed to replace with Haaland. And we all know how the Haaland versus Salah debate has gone. Haaland is winning that quite handsomely right now. So I needed to make these changes. You know, I know for so many people, they're thinking, oh my gosh, there's injuries, or I had a low score in game week 19. But, you know, unless you have maybe like 4 or 5 players out, I would definitely hold on to the wild card, because try and get there with transfers, it's not worth it to take hits. It's just not going to help you necessarily to really move up the ranks. And, you know, the other big reason is I don't like the fixtures for so many teams. The next 2 to 3 game weeks, I don't really like a lot of the fixtures for a lot of the teams. The teams I do like their fixtures the next 2 to 3 are Aston Villa, Man City, and West Ham. And there is a player on Aston Villa outside Rodgers, who I'll talk about later in the video, who could be a great consideration to get to. But other than that, I already do have Rodgers on my squad. I have triple Man City with Diaz, Foden, and Haaland. And I don't have coverage on West Ham, who I like Bowen in the striking position, but ultimately I can get there because I do have 3 free transfers. So unless there's like multiple fires, you really want to change the structure of your team. You know, Gabriel's back in the game, so obviously there's a desire to get him, but for some, they can get to him in one move or maybe 2. I wouldn't use the wildcard chip. I think that, you know, the other thing to consider is there's the transfer window. It just opened right now. So the big move that has been, I think, announced today or about to be announced, according to Fabrizio Romano, is Brennan Johnson going to Crystal Palace. That seems like a really solid move for him and the team, getting a player under 6.5 million who can slot in, score goals, and Glasner can use another player, as we know that Crystal Palace has been challenged from a depth perspective. So that could be another reason, right? Like let the transfer window go. There's going to be a little bit more player movement and, allow yourself the time to really figure out who are the players you want to get to for their great next fixture runs. I don't see that right now, but ultimately the wild card, because of the immense options it gives you, is my number one chip and one to consider for double game weeks and the blanks to come and to use when you have huge emergencies such as injuries. Now, let's take a look at what the second best chip is, in my opinion, which is the free hit chip. The free hit chip, it allows you to change your entire team or as many transfers as you actually want for 1 week only before reverting back to your original team. So in the first half of the season, I used my free hit in game week 18 and I scored 61 points. You can check out this video on how I did. I thought it was a really good use of the free hit chip, as I didn't want to go in game week 19 because I felt that there are a lot of difficult fixtures. And it looks like I've been proven right with how things have unfolded. Really not so strongly for so many of us with all the players that we had and all these unexpected injuries in game week 19. Suffice to say, the free hit is just such a good chip to use when you do have these injuries, when you do have also like players that you can't either get to or are not in your squad that are playing maybe a team that you want to double or triple up on. So in the example in game week 18, I thought that Everton would be a great pick for my players, and I got double Everton. Imagine if I went triple Everton and got Pickford for his clean sheet. That's an extra almost excluding bonus, almost 20 points, excluding bonus, 18 points or so. And then you're going to get bonus if they get the clean sheet points, especially as the defenders when there's a shutout. So that's a great example of like using the free hit chip effectively. I went with also in game week 18, I went with Verts. You're going to see this comment here with someone I had a little back and forth on in X about Verts. And the beauty of the free hit chip is it allows you to take these punts you may not have taken in the past because, it's just 1 week. So if they, score a goal, like in Verts' case, you make out really, really well. And the thing with a free hit too is you don't necessarily have to change your entire team. So Verts was a good punt because he had a great fixture, Leeds at home. So we put him in. Sorry, Wolves at home. So we put him in. And then, look what he did. So it's just a good example of using that chip strategically and, allowing yourself to really effectively use it when you think there's opportunities to be had. So in terms of the verdict for this chip, I think it's a little too soon. Again, we have doubles, game weeks, and blanks coming up. It really does really well in a blank. As you can imagine, later in the season, perhaps your squad is full of a bunch of players from a few teams. And so you may want to target, and they're blankings because they're maybe in deeper competitions. So you may want to target another team that has a more favorable fixture because your players won't play. So instead of getting like the 0 pointers from players that, or even using your bench from a team that is not playing a lot, you can use a free hit chip. Let me know your thoughts on any of these chips as we keep going along. But now let's get to my third place chip, and that is the triple captain chip. So the triple captain chip triples the points that you score in the game week from one of your players. For me, what I did is I used the triple captain on Saka versus Haaland. I made a video on triple captaining Haaland against West Ham at home. I went against my own advice because one thing with the triple captain chip, in addition to potentially using it at the end of the season, the last game week, if you wanted to like try and win your mini league because there's going to be all these crazy scores. The other view is I like triple captaining a midfielder over a forward because of all the extra points that a midfielder gets for a clean sheet, more easily accessible for defensive contributions, which someone like Saka had gotten in the past. And also they get 1 more point for a goal, which is the real reason. And I love midfielders who score goals in this game because those are the keys to really getting your rank up. We all have Haaland, so you're looking for an edge in any case, in any way. So my thought process was, although Haaland was such a strong choice, the view was if Saka scored a goal, he'd almost be ahead of Haaland with the other ways he can get points than if Haaland scored 2 goals. So, and then, Saka would also have the opportunity to get bonus. So it's just one of those things where sometimes it doesn't go your way, but the thought process is sound. And so that's why I love triple captaining a midfielder. And this chip is a great one. It gives you that extra, the triple points, and so it's hard because sometimes you get it wrong. I know people went for Holland earlier at home against Leeds and they didn't get anything, right? So I'm just happy that Saka got me 11 points. Although I lost in the Saka Holland triple captain debate, he got me enough and more than when other people use the chip. So that's a really good way of looking at it. And ultimately, it's good to be saved when you think that a midfielder has a great fixture, or when Holland you think is going to go off again, preferably at home. So that's a good use of the triple captain chip. And now the fourth chip in this ranking is the bench boost chip. So bench boost, it adds your goalkeeper and your 3 bench players to your point total for the game week. This chip I've never had success with. Honestly, it's sort of like a waste of a chip in my mind. Usually people get it wrong. The thing with it is very simple, right? What happens is if you have a goalkeeper and your defenders maybe on the bench and they lose their clean sheet, then you just clean sheet. Then you just have like 1 or 2 pointers in your squad, and it really doesn't really add a lot to your team. And it's always so funny with the bench boost because sometimes you'll have like a regular game week and then you'll have like 20 points on the bench, or 15 points on the bench. Like, it's just in random weeks. It's really hard to really pinpoint when it's going to do well for you because you need sort of all these different variables of these players and different fixtures doing well, which, as we know in FPL, is always the case of not necessarily happening at the right time. So ultimately, that's why it's fourth, and one that, I try and get rid of it the first of all of these chips, use it when I think it could be the best, but ultimately, sometimes it doesn't go down that way for me. So let me know, guys. Let me know your thoughts on my rankings of the chips. Is one chip ranked too high, too low? But would love it to see your views on it in the comments. Now let's get to the breaking news of the day, which had to do with Enzo Maresca and getting sacked mutually stepping down at Chelsea. Okay, so the breaking news at Chelsea: Enzo Maresca today left his position as manager. Really, it's not that surprising. Chelsea, what they love to do, change managers, right? It's just a revolving door there, and that's sort of the policy that they have with their managers as well as their players. They just keep chopping and changing, and no one really knows. I mean, if you're a Chelsea fan, maybe you can let me know how the team is supposed to function when you don't have stability in the managerial seat. I mean, you look at, what Arteta and Arsenal is doing. Yes, they don't have trophies, but ultimately he's been in charge for 6+ years. We've gotten better and better. And the last stat was over the last 3 years, we have the most points in the league. And look at the squad. It's really, really strong this year. And we look to do big things this year. So in Chelsea's case, what that means, let's take a look at what that means from an FPL perspective. It really doesn't change much. I brought in Chalobah because of all the defensive injuries. He's one of the top scoring defenders in FPL, and Chelsea does have a fixture run after like 3 or so game weeks where things start to get good. And so I wanted to bring in, one of their highest scoring assets in the game. So I like him. I love Cole Palmer too, but the injury situation worries me with Palmer. I don't know if he needs surgery. It's just my speculation because he has like a minutes cap, which isn't good for us because he's a premium asset over 10 million. You need these guys playing full 90s because at the end of games is when typically they can, get that extra assist or goal to really make them have a haul. So for me, when I look at the Chelsea assets from an FPL perspective, it's definitely a wait and see, and a strong hold right now. And we'll see what they do in their next fixture, which will be managerless, most likely against Man City away. Okay, so let's look at how the team did in game week 19. I'm very fortunate to be over 40 points this game week. Need to add the 3 bonus points for Collins. So I think I'll be at like 42 points, but let's go through the team. So Dubravka came in. I did the transfer from Leno to save 0.9 million to get Dubravka in. He had a rough go against Newcastle. He let the howler in at the end, the Bruno Guimaraes goal, when he came off his line weirdly and had a miscommunication with his defense. Anyways, we'll move 2 points there. Chalobah, I thought he was going to get an attacking return. I like the Chelsea fixtures moving forward. Not in the interim, but longer term. And I moved out cash to get him. So We'll see on that move. But then I had 2 clean sheets with Collins and Diaz in their 0-0 draws against the teams they played respectively in Tottenham and Sunderland. So then moving to the midfield, a lot more clean sheets, and the only attacking return was Saka. So clean sheet for Foden against Sunderland. We had Rodgers with the 1-pointer in a tough fixture against Arsenal away. Saka, who, outscored Haaland as my captain. And I always thought Arsenal would do well in this game. Unfortunately, Saka didn't get more. And so he had the 6-pointer double up to 12 points. And then Szoboszlai had the clean sheet and 3-pointer in that game against Leeds at home. And then finally in the forward line, we have Calvert-Lewin, who had the 1-pointer. Unfortunately for him, he only played 20 minutes, so he'll be fresh for a good fixture at home against Man United, hopefully. And then the 2 same forwards I've had in Thiago and Haaland, who both blanked. So now let's take a look at our FPL Green Line fixtures and look at our Gameweek 20 Green Line fixtures in the FPL Green Line. All right, so for our FPL Green Line fixtures, the one standout fixture out of the 5 we have here is Aston Villa at home to Nottingham Forest. And I will give you my reveal of the Aston Villa player. I keep teasing it, who I think could be a good pick for the next run of games for Aston Villa. And then we have Brighton at home to Burnley. I'm not sure about the Brighton assets you have. They're sort of an up and down team. Minte has a little bit of injury concern, so watch that there. Spurs at home to Sunderland. Sunderland, as we just saw, I'm recording this after the Sunderland 0-0 draw with Man City. Strong team, so I'm not sure if that's really a green fixture for Spurs at home. And then West Ham is away to Wolves. That's a strong fixture for them. Bowen looks like a good option there if you have him, and I know some other people have Paqueta. And then Wolves is also having a green fixture with West Ham. So those are 2 teams in the bottom half. It could be a really entertaining game there. We'll see what happens there. But those are the fixtures for the FPL Green Line. Now let's get to our player that we think he may be leaving in January, and that is Antoine Semenyo. So I wanted to look at Semenyo and my transfer plans because I wanted to give you my view on him as an asset. So it looks like Semenyo will go to Man City. I'm not sure when, but it looks like it's definitely a move happening in January. He's been a great asset, and it's sort of like a lot like Eze, who was a star player at a team that was a little bit not as strong in Crystal Palace, moving to a team that's super strong in Man City for Semenyo. So what I foresee is, it's going to be hard to get the minutes there. They're going to do, they have so many options, right? So they're going to be more rotation. So I don't like the move for him from an FPL asset, which is why I suggest potentially looking at transferring him out. And I will give you 3 great options where you can move, if you have Semenyo, in one move too. That could give you a little bit of upside in terms of, them as an FPL pick moving forward. So the first move that obviously comes to mind is Rodgers. For me, I already have him in my squad. I've had him in my squad since game week 10. But if you don't, and I think he's a good pick, I think, he keeps going up in price, but he was around 7 million when I got him. And I think the view you should have is there's 4 other midfield spots. Rodgers is sort of a boom bust player, right? He has these hauls and then he can give you the 1 and 2 pointers. At the end of the day, he's a goal scoring mid. That's what we've seen so far this season from him. So if you think you want to take a chance on a player like that and you have the space, like if you move Semenyo, you could probably do that. You could do that in one move. He's a good pick. And if you don't have him, because his ownership is starting to rise now as well, right? So people are thinking along the same lines of, is it now the time to pick him up? And the beauty with Rodgers is the next 2 of 3 are at home. So those are good fixtures for him to keep doing what he's doing. He's a star man at Villa, and he looked threatening against Arsenal away. He had a few chances from an assist perspective. So I think he's going to continue to be there in the points, even regardless of the data. Take a look at this video that I did on Rodgers recently and my thoughts on Rodgers versus the data. Is it luck or not? So with that said, let's get into the 3 players that you can move from Antoine Semenyo to in one move. So the first player, I have to mention him. He plays for Arsenal. He's not Declan Rice. He's Leonardo Trossard. And he's just had a phenomenal season. Look at his stats. He's second in goals for midfielders under 7 million. He's fifth in XGI for midfielders under 7 million. And Arsenal is the second highest scoring team in the league thus far. So the thing that you have to think about with this is, for me, and I hope for you too, if you love a goal scoring midfielder playing for an offense that's scoring goals, that's Trossard. So he has to be considered. And he's a great one move from a Semenyo, or even if you're considering him potentially over Rodgers. Because the thing with Arsenal is, yes, there's more competition for places, but when you're playing in a team that can score a lot of goals, all it takes is for you to come on and you can do your magic, get an assist and a goal, and then a return, which is a lot better than having an asset that blanks, right? And there are more highly priced assets that will blank and continue to blank. I mean, if we look at Liverpool this week with Ekitike, at 9 million, you can't really have him blanking, And so for Trossard, he's great value, and I think someone to consider from the Arsenal perspective. And it does answer a lot of those questions around, okay, Saka's at 10 million, so save 3 million, get Trossard, and then use the 3 million else to improve your team. Another player, and the Aston Villa player to consider, he's an ex-Arsenal man himself from the academy, Daniel Malen. So Malen is a really interesting player. He's super cheap, 5.1 million, but look at these stats. He's first in goals for midfielders under 5.5 million, and he's fifth in XGI for midfielders under 5.5 million. And Villa is the fifth highest scoring team with the next 2 or 3 games at home. He's a punt. Let's put it that way. This is looking at your fifth or midfield spot. He's definitely a punt because his issue has been the minutes. But when I looked at him in the last game against Arsenal, he came on with real intent, and he had the assist for Ollie Watkins. He's a player, and it's cool to see and good to see, a player coming on in a game that's done and showing that, burst to say, hey, to the coach, I want to play and I can do something. And that's what you want to see. So when I look at Villa in the next 2 to 3 fixtures, I can foresee Malen being involved in the goals, and, he won't get those minutes. So this is not a 90-minute man, which is the complete opposite of a Morgan Rodgers who will play 90 minutes, but he is someone that could probably get you returns. So in that one move from Semenyo, someone to definitely consider in Daniel Malen. Finally, our last player to consider is an ex-Manchester United Academy product, and I think Man U would love to have him in their squad right now, James Garner. So he's second in total points for midfielders under 7 million and second in total DEFCONs for midfielders under 7 million. The next two are at home against Brentford and Wolves for Everton, and he's just been a really under the radar pick. I know a lot of people have talked about him, and at 5 million, he's such a great value. So he really is in that fifth slot. You can easily get to him. Everyone can get to him. That's not the issue. The big issue, though, is Everton has only scored 20 goals in 19 games. So if you're thinking this guy is going to get you a brace every game, like a Rodgers, that's not the case at all. So don't bring him in from that perspective. But if you think you want someone who can tick along, who can potentially get you points with 2 home fixtures, going to be around the DEFCONs, at 5 million, you can't really go wrong. So so he is one to take a look at and to consider. And I hope you look at, James Garner in your squads. Now let's take a look at how the team is lining up for Gameweek 20. So we have Henderson in net against Newcastle away. Tough fixture for them, but I hope he can get some save points. We have Calafiori away to Bournemouth. Not sure if he's going to start, but he's in the lineup just in case he does. Collins away to Everton, and Ruben Diaz in a good fixture at home against Chelsea. We have Foden in the midfield. Rodgers in a good fixture against Forest at home. Saka currently with the vice armband against Bournemouth, and Szoboszlai away to Fulham. And then up front, I like all the forwards fixtures in Calvert-Lewin at home to Manchester United, Thiago at home, away to Everton, and Haaland, who will have the captain armband after a 2-week hiatus at home to Chelsea. And then on the bench, we have Dubravka as my backup goalie, Semenyo at home to Arsenal. He may play in that game. And then Chalobah away to City, and Ballard, who's currently injured, away to Tottenham Hotspurs. Are you looking to play a chip this game week? If you like this video, please subscribe and like below. Happy New Year, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.